Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you for joining us today for our latest installment of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's a series of conversations with IT thought leaders in all different sectors of the business. Our interviewee today is Michael Berthold. Michael is the CEO, Michael, of KNIME, or that's your role there.
Yes.
And at KNIME, it's K-N-I-M as in Mary E, unusual name. And Michael, all the way from Germany today, welcome to eSpeaks.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
Where are you in Germany again?
I'm based in Constance. I also live in Constance, and that explains part of the name because KN, the start of KNIME, is actually on the license plates of Constance cars. That's where that comes from.
Very cool. Tell me a little bit about your background, Michael.
Oh, I'm a computer scientist by training. I got a PhD in actually hardware verification in the early days, and then I spent a bit of time at UC Berkeley, living in the Bay Area for 10 years. I came over as a postdoc intending to stay a year, and then I ended up staying 10. Worked a little bit for startup companies, and then started working for a pharmaceutical software company, heading their data analysis research lab in South San Francisco. And then I got a call for a professorship and offer for an endowed chair in Constance at the university here. And then it was just good time for the family to move back to Europe. So we did. And that's when we started the development of KNIME, the open source analytics platform, for a couple of years, more in stealth mode, more as an open source research workbench, so to speak, for data science. Back then it was still data analysis and analytics, that type of stuff. And that then turned into a successful spin-off from the university.
Very good. Tell us about KNIME itself. Again, it's K-N-I-M-E. What does that name actually mean? And how long has the company been around, and what business problems do you solve?
So the name came from, we wanted to call it Constance Information Miner. That the early days, it was about finding information in data. And it turns out a name like KIM, K-I-M, is of course already trademarked and taken, and you can't find the URLs. And then the idea came up that in the Constance, since we had that on the license plate, as I said at the beginning, is KN. So we had KNIM for the information miner, and then we kind of wanted to round that off with the E at the end. And that's where that comes from. I once talked to a marketing specialist, and he said, what a terrible name from a marketing perspective. But he said, when people finally remember, it does stick, and it does. So that's where the name comes from. So what we do is really, there's an open source piece to it, the open source analytics platform that's used by data scientists to essentially do anything with the data they want to do. It's essentially the idea is to have a visual workflow editor that allows you to visually model where you get the data from, how you transform it, how do you build a model, how you build visualizations, and also how you deploy things in the end into production. And that's all open source. Everybody can use that. Arbitrary large data science, no limitations, nothing. We have integrations, since it's open source, with a lot of the other cool open source tools out there, TensorFlow, but also Python integration to address all of those needs. And then the commercial piece is what we call KNIME Server, and that's really more for an organization that wants to deploy all of that wisdom to others as a REST service or as a web-based application. So for us, the open source versus commercial mix works extremely well because we never really have to explain to the open source user, so what's free, what's not free, because everything they care about is free, right? To really do data analysis, to do data science, that's all part of the open source platform. It's really only when you put it into production, that's where the commercial component comes into play.
Okay, so it is a freemium, you would call it a freemium application?
I wouldn't call it the usual premium model, because to me that kind of involves you have to, in order to really work, you need to buy something. But the data scientists, even small teams of data scientists, they can work with the open source tool. It's more of a complementary technology. It's a little bit like buying a garage for your car, right? We're not selling you the steering wheel, we're selling you the garage so that you can really use your car day to day, day in, day out.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I mean, everybody has a car, so they definitely get that. Can you describe who some of your customers are and maybe a use case for the platform?
Absolutely. So we have tons of customers. I mean, some of the customers that have presented at past summits of ours, we have these annual gatherings, now online, of course. It's like the Deutsche Telekom, they're analyzing their online communities, social media analytics, trying to figure out who talks to whom, what sentiments going on in posts online. We have other customers like Procter & Gamble doing retail store analytics. We have customers, they talked 2 years ago, I think in Berlin at the summit, Palo Alto Networks. But we also have other customers like Seagate talked at our recent summit last week. They do manufacturing quality control, looking at images of products during production and alerting that something's starting to go wrong very early. Kind of predictive maintenance is the buzzword for that one. A lot of our users are still actually, from a data science perspective, not doing very sciencey stuff. Often it's really data aggregation, getting it in shape, starting to get first insights. And a lot of our users are just happy to have control over their data and being able to create those aggregates of their data repositories in an automated, reproducible fashion.
I heard sentiment analysis involved there.
Yeah.
So does KNIME, are you able to be deployed to help solve customer experience problems, or for a company to kind of judge how people are talking about them online and come up with a report for those companies, or is that not what you do?
That goes in this direction. So what the telecom is doing, they're actually analyzing, they're monitoring online posts in forums, and the sentiment analysis always sounds like the data science understands the text. We don't, right? Nobody understands the text really. But what you do is you're parsing for certain keywords, and there's a large vocabulary of keywords, and taking all of those together gives you an idea about what the general sentiment of that particular post is. Is it more negative in tone, more positive in tone? And then you scan for product names, and that gives you a bit of an idea. Okay, there's something here where a couple of people are exchanging messages. They're very negative or very positive about a particular product. And then you combine this kind of text analysis with a network analysis to also find out, okay, these people are actually influencers, lots of followers reading those posts, so maybe you should do something. And if you realize they don't have any followers, they're just talking to each other, you just leave them alone, right? It's a little bubble. Those types of things, absolutely.
Okay, so let me dig a little further into that. I'd say you mentioned Deutsche Telekom is using you for that sentiment analysis, or at least a part of it. So if a customer is online talking about Deutsche Telekom and they're using F-bombs, and then they're mentioning products from Deutsche Telekom, so your company actually connects a lot of those dots and does a report for Deutsche, or what?
In this particular case, we'll be doing, well, we are not doing the report. We're providing you the software so that you can create that type of report yourself. And then the way you use that report, do you check that once a morning in your mailbox? Or do you have an automated alert system where an alarm goes off the second something happens? That really depends on the type of applications that we have. We have some customers that are really using KNIME in a real-time environment. They're deploying that to the edge where you monitor for something within 100 milliseconds or so. And others, it's really much more about getting a daily or weekly report of what's going on, and or maybe even doing a little bit of predictions about what's going to happen in the future.
I see. So the customer can set all the dials the way they want. It sounds like it's pretty agile, there's a lot of options involved.
Absolutely. So in a sense, I see us more as providing the Lego box with all of the little, what do you call that, the cubes, the Lego cubes. What you build out of that, if you build a little house or a garage or a car, is really up to you. I mean, we have what we call the KNIME Hub. It's kind of an open marketplace, not commercial, where people exchange these workflows. Right, you find a blueprint for churn analysis, you find a blueprint for image analysis, you find a blueprint for this kind of sentiment analysis that I described. That's all there. Some of them come from us, some of them come from the community. It's another nice asset of the open source nature of the analytics platform, because these workflows that you create there in the open source analytics platform, you can share them with others as just an example. Hey, this is how you solve this kind of a problem.
Yeah, you're good at analogies. Lego's a good analogy. So good to be there. Churn analysis is something I'm interested in too. When I assign an article to a reporter, I want to be sure that that person's not plagiarizing somebody else, and to be able to churn it to see that it's been used somewhere else. Is that what you do? Is that what churn analysis is, or are we talking about two different things?
So when we talk about churn analysis, it's usually about customers and some sort of subscription models, and you're trying to figure out, are they going to cancel their subscription in a month or two? But you're describing plagiarism detection. It's not something where we have a blueprint. I mean, you could build that in KNIME. I don't think it's necessary. I think there's a lot more sophisticated technology to do that, because you need to not only match text blocks, but you also need to do sort of fuzzy matching. We have fuzzy text matching modules in KNIME, so you could probably simulate that, but I think they're pretty sophisticated tools for this particular application out there already.
Yeah, this is an ideal tool for data scientists, as you say, but what about line of business employees at a corporation or an enterprise? Is this usable by them, or is it pretty easy to use as far as the user interface is concerned, or what?
Exactly. So the idea is that the open source, the analytics platform with these visual workflows that allows people to build data science, right, at just the right level of abstraction. They don't need to necessarily know how to program. If they want to, they can do that, but they can visually assemble that. And then sort of the next layer up is people that just reuse these workflows and use them almost like a blueprint. Say, I wouldn't be able to assemble this from scratch, but with a template, I can deal with that one. And then the next level up line of business, if it's more, I usually joke, it's the upper management. They shouldn't really deal with the workflow. They would just mess it up. You deploy that. That's where the KNIME server comes into play as a web-based application. And then they will run this workflow underneath the hood, or multiple workflows, but they don't see them. What they see is a UI that was designed by the workflow designer in such a way that it just has the right level of abstraction. So maybe for somebody, it's literally just a button and 2 entry fields where they can get some information, and whoop, they get a report out of it with predictions. And for others, it's a lot more interaction. That's actually one of our strengths, is that we allow to build these web-based applications as part of the workflow. So the data scientists can build them while they build the workflow and just say, here and here and here, I need to have an interaction point because I need feedback from my domain expert. Those are usually the domain users, right?
Well, it sounds very usable by a lot of people in a company if necessary. Last question would be, how is it deployed? Is it strictly a SaaS cloud service, or is it something that can also be run on a server in a private cloud?
You can do both. So the analytics platform right now is a rich client. You install that on your PC, on your laptop, and we're currently working also on a cloud-based version, on a browser-based version. And the server is something lots of our customers install that on-prem, but you can also buy that in AWS and run it also in your own cloud, or buy it on Google and Azure.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Michael, very much for this overview. In a short time, we learned a lot about KNIME. So I do. Is it pronounced KNIME or is it KNIME?
No, it's pronounced KNIME. The K is silent.
Okay,
Thank you.
Like knife, only KNIME. Okay, great.
Like knifing through data.
Yeah, right. Michael Berthold, CEO of KNIME in Germany. Thank you very much for being a guest on our show today.
Thanks, Chris.
And for everybody following along to the end here, thank you very much and have a great rest of your eWeek. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.